Who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Niall Ó Murchú and I'm a breathwork teacher. But the focus is really on teaching people how to breathe in ways that improve their health and their mood. And I have a breathwork academy called the Blissful Breath Academy, where we teach teachers how to become very skilled and compassionate as they teach breathwork.
Okay, so how did you get into breathwork?
So I started life with very bad asthma. So I had always a kind of strange relationship with breathing. For maybe the first 15 years of my life, I couldn't really breathe very well. I would get panic attacks, really struggled for the breath. So as I started to play basketball then, I played basketball for Ireland and I started to play at a really high level. I was always looking for ways to try and improve my breathing. And that eventually led me on to yoga and martial arts and to Wim Hof and to other breathwork teachers. And about 15, 20 years ago, that became the thing that I was most obsessed with.
How did you find when you started to engage in breathwork? How did that improve your breath and most importantly your health as well?
To put it really simply, the more we focus on our breathing, the better everything becomes. So the more we spend time just doing a little bit of breathing every day, our performance improves, our health improves, our mood improves. So for me, that was the key. Once I felt that change, then that was the key for me, just to go all in, to dedicate everything to it.
People who practice breathwork, what benefits can that bring to them?
So I think one of the first things people feel when they start doing a little bit of breathing is that they feel more calm. So they feel less stress, less anxiety, they feel a sense of peacefulness and calm, and then that starts to have an effect on their health. So when we're under pressure or feeling difficult things, our health suffers because we're not able to rebuild, we're not able to restore ourselves. So once people feel this sense of calm, then their health starts to improve, and when their health starts to improve, then their mood and their performance start to improve. So really, everything gets better the more we spend time breathing.
Like, what's the average person who comes to you and they want to get into breathwork? What are the things they're struggling with? And as they come to you and they start to engage in breathwork, how does that benefit them?
I think it's going to, you can take this answer in many directions, but there are so many different types of people who come to learn to breathe. So oftentimes everyone has their own story, and it's usually because they're struggling with something, struggling with stress or struggling with health problems. And I think the advantage for them is that even if we were to sit down and do a couple of minutes of breathing now, you feel different nearly immediately. So that's the great thing about it, that if no matter what they come for, if they spend even a few minutes breathing, they feel great benefit, and from that benefit then hopefully they do a little bit more.
So if somebody's watching this video today and they want to get into breathwork or start practicing it, what would be a good way to start? Maybe like a beginner's practice?
Yeah, so one of the most effective ways of moving from a state of fight or flight or emergency or survival down to somewhere where we feel safe and calm is through this long, slow exhale. So if people are watching this, all they have to do is gently breathe in and slowly breathe all the way out. And in about 4 or 5 of those breaths, the vagus nerve in the back of the head starts to activate. It drops the heart rate, softens the body, and even our perspective goes from being focused on the source of the stress to something much wider. So that focus on a long, slow exhale is a great way for someone to start their breathing practice, and you can do it anywhere where you're feeling under that pressure.
We talk about parasympathetic nervous system, so the fight or flight. Could you maybe touch on the rest or digest? What's it feel like to be in that state, and why would it be important for somebody who's going to sleep to be getting into that state?
So I think most people have had the experience of feeling really relaxed and their body is soft and they feel calm. So that's what happens when we move down into the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, that rest and digest. So imagine back in the old days when we lived in caves, when we were outside the cave and we were hunting and we were being hunted. That's the sympathetic, that's the stressful part of the nervous system. And that's very important, and we're built to deal with that. But when we come back into the cave, it's so vital that we come back down into this parasympathetic part of the nervous system where the body can start to rebuild itself. So we can't really heal, we can't really restore our health if we're outside the cave. We have to come back in again. So the breathing, especially at night, moves us down into that beautiful sanctuary of peace, and then we can sleep better, and then we feel better.
Basically, we're saying, how would you encourage to get into that state at night?
So I think there's a few ways to do it, but probably the simplest way is for the person just to start to listen to their breathing, just to become aware of the breath. So when we place our attention on our breathing, immediately it starts to slow down, and immediately we start to feel different. So even listening to the breath, and of course our mind will wander off, but bringing it back to the breath, that starts to really unwind how we feel. So that's a great starting point. And once they start listening to their breathing, again, just bringing it back to that long, slow exhale. Within about 4, 5, 6 or 7 of those long, slow exhales, they'll start to soften, they'll start to unwind. If they continue to do those long, slow exhales, they'll wake up the next morning having had a great restful sleep.
So when we're asleep, we're unconscious, and it can be very difficult to control how we breathe. How can we ensure that maybe we breathe correctly at night whilst we're sleeping?
So one of the most important things that I recommend to people is to use mouth tape. Nay's amazing brand mouth tape.
Very good. Do you want to take the mouth tape out? Yeah. Just so, like, some people hear mouth tape, they still don't know what it is. Yeah. And we're all in the world of mouth tape. We need to remember sometimes that people have to clear.
This man always has a fresh supply. Just in case, boom.
Yeah.
Hand it out. You're breathing to your mouth when you're running.
That's what I actually do. Is always the packet. You never know who you bump into. Too many times I've been stuck with no product.
I think one of the most important things for people to realize when they're moving from, say, mouth breathing to nose breathing is that it can be a very difficult transition. So for me, for example, I was breathing through my mouth for maybe 20, 30 years before I started to breathe through my nose. So if someone's listening to this or watching this now and they're trying to breathe through their nose and they can't very well, always just take it nice and easy. And one of the best ways to help you move from mouth breathing to nose breathing is to do it at night. And that's where something like this Nay's mouth tape comes in. People can think, oh my God, this is kind of strange to put something on your mouth at night. But what it does is our nervous system is always learning again how to breathe. So every time we go to bed at night, it's learning again how to breathe. So by placing the tape on our mouth, it gently holds the lips in position and it forces the body to start using the nose. And something incredible about the nose is, besides it humidifying the air, cleaning it and preparing it for the lungs, and besides the nose preparing the air for the lungs and as well kicking off this reaction in the body that improves our immune system, it is so vitally important that the more we use our nose, the more it opens up. So for years from martial arts, I had a broken nose and I felt that was impacting my breathing, but in fact it wasn't. It was the lack of using my nose that was impacting it more. So by simply putting this on at night, the body starts to use the nose more and it starts to open up the breathing passages more. And then what people find during the day, because they've learned how to breathe again at night, that their breathing during the day massively improves as well. So when people breathe with like a Nay's mouth tape like that, they wake up refreshed because they're also not losing moisture by breathing through their mouth. So a person doesn't realize how fresh their sleep and refreshing their sleep can be until they start putting this on their mouth.
The most common concern we get is somebody has been a mouth breather maybe their whole life, like yourself, maybe their nose has been broken before, they suffer allergies, and they say, look, if I can't breathe through my mouth, I'm going to suffocate. How can we maybe address those concerns? Which probably they have the right to have them, but how can we address them to show you have to use your nose to improve it?
Breathing to your nose is kind of this concept that's been lost in our society. We're so obsessed with kind of breathing through our mouth, and there's a reason for that. When we start to feel pressure, we start to change how we breathe. And so we start breathing through our mouth because that is how we breathe when we're under stress. But it's really important for people even to start thinking about breathing through their nose again. And like you said, it might be such a difficult thing to think about and people have fears around it. So what I always recommend is taking it nice and easy. recognizing that the transition from mouth breathing to nose breathing can be difficult, even doing a few yoga classes every week to get used to breathing. All yoga is done through your nose. So they put you in kind of difficult positions to force you to learn how to breathe through your nose. And then at night, you can build on that by putting this on your mouth. What I do with my children when they were smaller was, I'd say, practice putting this on your mouth when you're doing your homework or when you're watching TV, even for 5 minutes first, so the body gets used to it. And then at night, what will happen is, if a person is feeling quite restricted, subconsciously they'll take it off themselves. People often say to me, I was using mouth strips and I woke up and it was stuck to my head like this, because they're kind of pulling it off. But it's a slow, kind transition from mouth breathing to nose breathing, and then the benefits are huge.
I'm sure you've used mouth tape before in the past. Of course, we've launched our company 8 months ago, and the whole premise of Nasal is to nasal breathe at night to have a better quality of sleep. What is it about the Nasal tape that you enjoyed or you liked, maybe compared to other tapes, or what made you make the switch to using the Nasal tape?
What I liked about it was, these are all very practical things. It's very easy to put on, and it's kind of soft on the mouth, and it's easy to take off. I don't know, what I do is put a little bit of warm water on it, and then just take it off, and it comes off very easily. But I think another thing for people to think about with nose breathing at night, so many people suffer from snoring, sleep apnea, all these types of sleeping disorders. Many of them can be improved or even diminished completely by just learning how to breathe through your nose and using something like this at night. So if there's someone in your life that is very loud at night snoring, buy them something like this for Christmas or whatever time of year it is, and it'll probably improve the quality of sleep for everyone.
And it is true, like with the amount of couples we've had come to us said, I know, couldn't sleep in the same room as my husband, and now they are, or amounts of people we've had who have that anxiety, fear around their snoring, especially when they're going on a trip away, the hen parties or whatever, and they're like, I have to share a room. So no, it's great that you see the benefit in it too. That's brilliant. I
suppose as well and this is a big thing for athletes of any sort. You know, when you see, I've worked with professional teams, Olympians, you know, they're always looking for that just small 1% improvement on their performance. A massive improvement that can change how they're performing totally without much effort is changing that way of breathing, that nostril breathing. Most people, as they train, as they get into that high intensity workout, move to their mouth, and if they start to slowly move to their nose, then everything changes. The idea is that the body stays alkaline, so your endurance can continue to go and go and go, because lactic acid and things like that can't build up in the body if we can improve the skill of breathing through our nose. Now at the beginning, when athletes start to breathe through their nose, they're like not into it at all, because their times come right back down, because they're learning now to breathe in a different way. But after a week or two, their performance jumps back up again, and their recovery is better, their performance is better, dealing with pressure and stress is better, all just from breathing through their nose.
So if I was to nasal breathe, say for 3 months at night using the mouth tape, so the great thing about the mouth tape is it actually ensures that you will nasal breathe. And I was previously a mouth breather, maybe I have allergies or congestion and I resort to mouth breathing. Do you think there will be a physical change in their airways or their ability to actually breathe through their nose?
Oh, it'll massively change. Like after 3 months, if you're breathing through your nose, you'll often wake up feeling like a different person. So people often say they didn't realize that they were waking up like with a hangover from breathing through their mouth, and then they change and all of a sudden they're waking up fresh. There's great research in a book, Breath, by James Nestor, to show that not only does nose breathing make all these amazing improvements that we've talked about, all these amazing benefits, it actually changes the shape of our skull. The more we breathe through our mouth, the narrower our skull becomes, the more crowded our teeth becomes, the more difficult it is to breathe. The more we breathe through our nose, everything starts to widen, including our skull, which is amazing for all different aspects of our health as well. So that's also important.
Very good, very good. Do you feel like there's more mouth breathers nowadays? people that are just not breathing correctly, especially at night for us. Obviously, that's what we notice, and we probably didn't even realise back in February how much of a pain point mouth breathing is, the snoring, the restless nights. So do you think nowadays there's something that might have caused that, or why is it becoming more prominent?
I think maybe our understanding has improved.
Yeah.
I think probably if we were to look back 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, there was probably a mix of people, some breathing through their nose naturally, some breathing through their mouth naturally. And the reason it changes is that when we're born, when you see a young child, and I watch my children grow up, when we're born, they breathe through their nose all the time. And they breathe in this beautiful way, the belly expands, the diaphragm draws down, lungs open. But as we start to become more self-conscious, about 6 or 7 or 8, the pressure we feel around us, becoming conscious of ourselves, starts to change everything in the body, including how we breathe. So if a child, if they feel, say, pressure, or they feel nervous or worried, their breathing will start to change, including starting to breathe more in their mouth, because they're up in that state of fight or flight. Now, we might spend 20 or 30 years doing that until we learn a bit more about it. So I don't know if there's more people mouth breathing, nearly impossible to tell.
Yeah.
But definitely there's more information out there about the pros and cons of breathing through the mouth and breathing through the nose. So our understanding is becoming more sophisticated, and I think that's changing. Then people are asking questions about it, and that's then bringing awareness to the whole thing.
Yeah, even like, so you would have said, would you say it's an anxiety issue within children?
If you watch a little child, their breathing is natural. It just works really well. They're doing it exactly as they should. But just in those moments that when the child starts to become embarrassed about things they're doing, or aware that people are watching them, it just changes.
Okay.
And that pressure can build over time, and that can influence our breathing. And for most people that's the case, and it probably pushes them a little bit into mouth breathing.
Right.
So I think it's a natural thing. I think it's a natural, the movement from nose breathing initially to mouth breathing. I think it's also natural then for us to learn more and return back to that natural nose breathing as well.
You said yourself you had asthma, and people come to us and they have asthma, and obviously when they ask about mouth taping, we say, you know, you have to ask your doctor, but we have heard from people like yourself that it helps. So that's all we can say, like case studies like yourself, you know, it helps. We can give the information that it actually does help, but we can't say obviously for sure to do it. How has it helped your own asthma, or what's your asthma like now?
So I think for people with asthma, there's various levels, can be very severe. So breathing can be even nearly a traumatic experience to think about their breathing, because they associate breathing with panicking and with the asthma attacks, like I did for many years. So the first stage is to maybe learn a little bit about just breathing naturally into the belly, getting used to the body breathing in a way that feels comfortable. And as they start to kind of progress to a place where they feel like more in control of their breathing, then they can learn, like we said at the beginning, very simple ways of focusing on their exhale to deal with the panic and the trauma that comes with a lack of being able to breathe. And then at some stage along that, there's the transition to nose breathing, and then there's the mouth taping as well. But really to, like I said before, taking it nice and easy, being very kind to yourself as you're learning to breathe, and just learning more about this amazing power that we have of breathing. And then that starts to have an effect on your asthma then, and your ability to deal with it.
And would you say it's impacted your own asthma in a positive way?
Oh, it's gone.
Oh,
it's
really?
gone. It's gone. So, yeah, it was kind of strange. The cold used to trigger my asthma and things like that, and now, like, it doesn't exist. Now I know in some asthma circles they say asthma is not curable. I don't agree with that. I think, you know, for some people there's a mix of things that they can do. One of them is learning how to breathe really well, and that can definitely improve it. And for some people, it just ends it. So thankfully, that's who I am.
Great stuff. And what about people with allergies? So allergies are so common nowadays. Hay fever, dust, maybe pets, and people are, I know myself, I'm taking antihistamines constantly, and even when I was a young lad, when I was a teenager, they destroy me. I was so tired all the time, taking 5 or 6 of them a day. Shouldn't have been doing it, but I was dying, I was sneezing all day. So how can nasal breathing help people with allergies?
I suppose one way it could potentially help people is that the air that comes into the body is filtered by the nose. It's cleaned by the nose and prepared for the lungs. So if a person is used to breathing in their mouth all the time and they have allergies, the air is coming straight down into their lungs without any filtering or cleaning. So it would make sense that if they use their nose a bit more, it would probably help that.
Okay. And do you think nasal breathing could help in cold and flu season, or?
I think nasal breathing triggers an immune response, so it helps the body to improve its immune system. So that could definitely help people for sure.
To go back to snoring, because I think that's like so common, and people don't realize maybe how much of snoring is related to mouth breathing, and how much of snoring do you feel personally could be prevented by using something like mouth tape?
I think everyone's circumstances are very different. For a lot of people, it'll definitely improve things. It depends what's the cause of the snoring as well, but for everybody, just learning to breathe through their nose will have an effect. It'll deepen the quality of their sleep, and especially people who snore. I think the nasal strips are a great way for people to really feel a difference immediately. So if a person is unused to breathing through their nose, they put the nasal strip on, it opens up the airways and they can feel a difference. And I think that's a very important step in proving to themselves how important breathing through the nose is, and taking that step maybe to using the mouth tape as well.
You put the nasal strips in the combo.
Oh yeah.
To help those people use mouth tape basically.
Okay, gotcha.
They might have never used it if they didn't have the nasal strip. So touching on that, we also decided to include nasal strips with our mouth tape for that exact reason of when you do tape the mouth, there are people who would like to supplement their nasal breathing by using the nasal strip. So that's where the sleep combo was born, and thankfully it's been a hit and people have really enjoyed it. But that is the actual benefit for us.
I think it's a great way to do it. It's very simple. You put it on your nose, kind of opens up the nose. I think it's an important step for people to feel that as well. It opens up the nose, so they'll initially feel much more comfortable with the mouth tape. So I think it's a great combination to include the strips and the tape together.
Yeah, we saw it as like a starter pack into nasal breathing, and then luckily people can choose then if they want to continue with the combo, or if they want to go to the nase tape or the nase strips. So it's been good.
Beautiful. I think it should be mandatory that everyone wears this all the time.
We have the brand new nase strip. Neil's going to be trying it on now. So let's see. You can upgrade the breathing even further. I'm just going to hold down for a second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh my God. It's actually unreal how different it feels, especially up in this part of the nose. Most of the sensation is towards the bottom of the nose, but this is amazing the way it opens up this kind of middle part, and you can really feel that. So that'll really help people to see what's possible.
It would help, I suppose, with the tape, and then being able to pop that on makes it that bit easier to.
I don't know if you remember, you're too young, probably Robbie Fowler used to play for Liverpool back in the day, and he was like the first person, and people thought he was crazy, but you can see how it really would affect people. Yeah,
I'm actually a Liverpool fanboy. Everyone says it. Your generation coming up to us at the market, they're like, Robbie Fowler used to wear them. He was ahead of his time.
But Jesus, that was probably the 90s. So he was
he
way
could have
ahead
been
of
on
his
really
time.
A good thing if he had
But it makes total sense, and for people trying to get used to it, even if they wear it while they're training. Which I'm sure they do. You can feel the difference, and it allows them to breathe more easily as their nose starts to open up as well from it.